Happy Tuesday, everyone. This session, and I appreciate the fact that you were waiting for us. This session is about the release of 10.0.1. Less than 3 months ago, we announced on the beginning of April the release of AppScan V10, and already we are releasing the second version, the first point version, 10.0.1. And I have with me some of my amazing team that you can't see now. Again, I'll bring it back. Some of my amazing team, and I'll fix that problem that I have with them now. Just a second. It's fun, and I thought that the experience that I had with Shahar's session was bad. Okay, just a second again. Disconnect, reconnect, and I have everyone back. Okay, so now you can see the team. Above me, you can see Julie Reed. To the top left, you have Florin, and to the side, I have Billy. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you for waiting with me on this technology. What can I say? Things can work bad when you go to live. So let's start with you, Julie. I want to do a quick round because I spent too much time already for people. You are in charge of the cloud solution, so naturally this point release is not related to you, but still, you guys delivered a lot this quarter. So can you summarize what is the essence of this quarter for you?
Sure, Eitan, and you're right. We are continually delivering every week or 2 weeks. I think you're going to hear a lot about what we inherited from the other teams, but I think for us, it was really on the making things easier, enabling the success of our users. And some of them are very small, little improvements, and some of them are larger, but it was really on ease of use.
Cool. Florin, let's go to you. Let's do it by the clock.
Well, it feels like I'm going to spoil the entire slide right now. But for us, the focus this quarter was to kind of help you highlight the changes that happen in your results and in your findings and make it easy for you to handle those results. So we invest a bit of time in that. We're also adding more languages as we got you used to it. I don't want to spoil my entire slide now, but we'll talk about those a bit later and discuss a bit about how we plan to use these new capabilities to optimize your automation a little bit.
Cool. And Billy, what about you?
Yeah. So in our DAST engine, we focus this quarter on the core capabilities of the engine, which are coverage and accuracy. And I'll save the details for later.
Cool. So with that, with no further ado, I'll go and share with you some slides that I have here. And no worries, a lot of the discussion is going to be, we are going to show the different solution. I'm not going to do a pitch here, but I wanted to make sure everyone understands what AppScan is. So HCL AppScan is all about both security and the DevOps. HCL AppScan is about fast, accurate, agile security testing. This is our motto. This is our vision. And with that, we mean that our scans will run faster. They will be very accurate as we can make them. But we also allow you to define how accurate and how fast they will be. Naturally, everything will be agile to fit the DevOps needs, and we are a security testing tool, right? We are in the business of helping you make your application more secured and your business with that more secured. Just a high level on our portfolio, we have our cloud solution that offers interactive application security testing, dynamic application security testing, static application security testing, and open source testing. And that's all available in the cloud to be consumed via SaaS. And we have on-premise, we have AppScan Enterprise, AppScan Source, AppScan Standard, and our very recently delivered in April, AppScan Code Sweep, which is a community edition for Visual Studio Code developers. On-prem, we offer dynamic analysis and static analysis, and very soon, later this year, we are adding interactive application security testing also, so stay tuned for that. For those who do not know what those 4 type of testing means, static analysis, basically we are scanning the application code, and we do that to identify vulnerabilities, right? We are using different techniques, whether it's data flow analysis, whether it's pattern matching, to identify all the possible vulnerabilities, places in the code that the developer missed and didn't sanitize data. We have interactive analysis, which basically analyzes live web applications. It monitors the application. It doesn't do an active scanning the way we do it. It just sits there and waiting and see what's going on with the application while it's being interacted with QA, functional testing, manual testing. Even it can go in production, but basically the idea is to run in pre-production sites, evaluate what's going on in the application and tell us about the vulnerabilities. And dynamic analysis, which is the most mature one, again, scan live application, test the application as like a hacker would do from the outside in, sends attacks on the application, evaluates the responses that he gets from the application in order to see if the attack succeeded or not, and by that identify a vulnerability. At the bottom we have open source analysis. Basically every application out there, aside from Hello World maybe, is dependent on open source libraries. And when you're downloading your open source library, even if you download the latest version of it, you're using it, maybe tomorrow someone finds a vulnerability in that library, and like any good white hat researcher, it will disclose the details to the vendor. The vendor will issue a fix, and then later the research is being disclosed. Once the research is being disclosed, other hackers, the bad side of the house, are going to use that in order to attack web applications. So open source analysis basically goes on your manifest and tells you which components you have that are known to have vulnerabilities. So with that in mind, I'm bringing back my team, and we will do a quick round, and each person will talk about what was great in more detail on their version. And Florin, we will start with you here. So you have the screen.
Okay, well, hopefully I'll be a bit, luckier when it comes to sharing stuff. So I just managed to turn off my screen, which was quite good.
The pressure is on you now, and we can see ourselves, so all good.
I don't see yourself. That was the plan, Nathan. I just want everyone to be a bit self-aware. That's what I'm aiming for.
Just everyone saw the green screen behind me. All good.
I spoiled the myth. I'm really sorry about that. Not.
Go ahead.
So I like that we kind of, the highlights for 10.0.1 for AppScan Source and for DAST are highlighting changes. We're specifically talking about AppScan Source here, but some of this apply to our cloud platform. We added more languages that are available with 10.0.1, and you get access to Scala, Swift, Kotlin, and React.js. And we also bumped our support for .NET Core 2.1 and 2.2. We're trying to cover as much ground as we can and make sure that you are covered. We see a lot of companies nowadays spreading the language adoption, going for more and more languages, and we're trying to make sure that we capture as much of that as we can. An important thing that was brought to us from our clients was the need to perform a diff assessment quickly between a baseline and some new scan. And we invest some time to develop that. It's using some of the work we had in our beta agent that we shared with the server, with some customers, and now it's available from the CLI. Everyone can access it, and hopefully it will give you some speed when it comes to presenting results to the developers and making them fix stuff. And finally, we added some compliance reports and support the latest DAST standard report version 4, the 10th revision. I do want to go into a bit more detail about the AppScan Delta, so I will take you quickly through this.
Yeah, I think it was mentioning, Florin, just a second, all the languages. This is a lot due to changes that we did in V10, where we already in V10 added a nice number of languages. And moving forward, spoiler for the next launch that we will have, we expect to have a few more of those languages, right? The cadence of adding them will be pretty quick soon.
Absolutely. We are getting way more aggressive with languages than we are in the past. And this is due to the fact that we're unifying the engines, or we unify the engines. And as soon as we do the research, we can make it available for both the cloud, and then later on in the quarter, when we have a release for Source, we can catch up on some of those languages and keep the delta between them, if you allow the pun, quite small. Make sure we're always up to date on the languages.
Cool.
And it's not just adding new languages, it's also updates to existing languages, any new rules that need to be tailored or enhanced, and catching up with versions. We are focusing a lot more on adding those and making sure that people are well covered from that perspective. But thank you for reminding me of that. Now with AppScan Delta, going back to this topic, is what we're trying to do is perform a diff between two assessments. I think most of us are technical here, so I'll not spend too much time into explaining what the diff is, but it's just a difference, right? And there's two ways that you can work with this assessment. The first thing you can do is you can highlight new findings. And this is very powerful for people that focus a lot on remediating things they identified after every single scan. So what's going to happen here is you're going to have two assessments. You're going to have your baseline assessment. This could be a scan you had before your latest release or the latest scan you have. And then you're going to have a new scan that you're going to compare it with. At the end of this assessment, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all the new issues that we identified and create a new assessment file for you to work with. The benefit of this is that it will allow you to go ahead and share this assessment with other users of AppScan Source, whether they're using the enterprise and they want to store the results there, or they might be using one of the plugins. They'll be able to open this assessment, look at the results, and navigate through them to understand what's happening in there. The other option we have is to look at resolved findings, which talks about highlighting resolved findings. I didn't want to say fixed, because it could be a case that you simply reconfigure your scan to not include some open source components or some other stuff you didn't want to scan, but it talks about issues that are gone. So what we're doing here is similar to the previous one. We are going to create a new assessment, and we are going to show you all the findings that were identified in the baseline scan, but are not available in this new scan that you just ran. One of the practical uses of this we see as being an automation. A lot of the customers we're talking to kind of follow this basic model. The implementation details obviously vary from technology stack to technology stack, but they start with the source code and the configuration file, they run some automated scans, they get the results, and they send them to a developer. And now, most of the time, the developer will have to do the work in the IDE to review the results. So what we're hoping to do now is introduce this additional, it's more or less step. It's in technical terms a command line that you have to run, and prepare a new, smaller assessment file that you can work with. So what we're going to do from now on, and we recommend for you to do as well from now on, is once you finish running your scan, do an assessment against the previous scan, identify the new stuff, and pass it down to the developers for remediation work, investigation work, and make sure they're up to speed with remediation. I do also recommend saving a baseline scan, mostly because you will want to do a comparison with this new baseline scan at some point in the future. But also, we see a lot of people that have compliance to deal with. So if for a specific build, you'll need to show what happened and what was identified, this baseline will help you with that piece of work. With that said, if you have any questions, any suggestions, any ideas, as always, reach out to me, reach out to my team, and we're happy to talk to you, get your feedback. And with that, I'll pass it back to Eitan.
Sounds cool. So we would love to see your pretty face again, Florin, on the screen. It's important to mention that what we are going to, I'm going to add in the description link to the full release notes, the what's new for all the different products. You can see more details there, especially when it comes to Billy. And Billy is going to show us next on the dynamic analysis a lot of things on the back end, a lot of good stuff. So, Billy? Billy, you're muted. And we can see you on the screen now.
Okay, hi. Let me just start sharing.
Sure. So naturally, we're just showing the highlights here. Version contains more capabilities than this, but here it goes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to mention. So these are the highlights for this release, the highlights of the DAST engine, and they are shared between all the products that include this DAST engine. In this engine, as I mentioned at the beginning, we focused on the core capabilities of accuracy and coverage, and I'll detail those. So the first capability talks about coverage. This is an improvement to the automatic action-based exploring capability that we have in the product. This is a unique capability that enables us to automatically explore any application, including all the modern different types of applications. We have done many enhancements and improvements to this mechanism to better support heavy applications, to better support new browser capabilities and new actions that were not fully supported before. So try it out. It should be much better now. The next one talks about accuracy of results. So what we did here, we have done an analysis on scans that we have in the cloud in order to identify reasons for false positives. We know that DAST scans are usually very accurate, but we always want to improve and have even better results. So we've done this analysis and we identified that many times false positives were a result of a wrong detection of error page. And we have internal mechanism to identify automatically error page. But sometimes it did not work well and it caused false positives. So we focused on that and we have done a lot of improvements to the algorithms that identify error page and use them in order to make accurate analysis of the test, in order to validate it accurately. And the result seems really promising. We analyzed it again after fixing on our cloud, and it looks better. It looks very good. So.
And I think it's again one of the benefits that we have for having the same scanner, the same engine, the same scanner itself on the cloud and on-prem. We can evaluate all our technology, not just on our tests and what we see in the lab, but on real-life applications and improve it along the way. Right? There are endless amount of different types of applications out there, and you can never cover all of them just with the on-prem testing. So. Another value like the test optimization from V10 that was introduced.
Yeah, and of course you get it automatically in all the products that have the DAST engine, which are AppScan Standard, AppScan Enterprise, and AppScan on Cloud. So while we analyzed the results, we also identified sometimes that issues were reported many times. And it's mostly for misconfiguration of servers and things like that. But we identified cases when it's not really interesting to see it many times. For example, if you have directory listing, AppScan reported it on every directory that in the application. And because it's basically a server configuration, we felt that it's good enough to report it only once. And then it will be much easier to review the results. So we did this kind of consolidation. You still have all the information, but now they appear as variants of the same issue. So we did it for different types of issues, those that are relevant to these cases. And now you can get a much more compact set of results that is easier to work with and to fix.
I think it's an important item to mention, Billy, because people might run a scan and suddenly see a lot less vulnerabilities reported. But basically what you're saying, you get the same amount, the same value, we find everything, we just do better work on reporting them.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. So don't be surprised if you see smaller amount, but you will see everything. You will see much more variance in this case. And in addition to that, we have done various improvements to the testing that includes 50 new directory guessing tests and some new rules and some additional capabilities related to testing that you can see the details in the what's new.
Great.
And as with the other products, we also updated our compliance report, the DISA report, to the latest release.
One of the things that I like best about this release is that we are following what static analysis did already, right? For me, improved and more accurate coverage is similar to the ICA. We actually reduce our false negatives by growing our coverage. Then you have the improved error page detection, which goes in order to remove the noise that we had. True, it wasn't as problematic as static analysis technology, but we followed that path, and it's similar to IFA. Again, we are putting some brain to it. And at the end, the consolidation, in a way, it's like fixed groups, right? All those issues can be fixed in a single place, in a single action. So we're collapsing them.
Yes, exactly. So, Aidan, you asked me to do a short demo. And in this release, because all the capabilities are actually behind the scenes, they are all core capabilities of the engine. We cannot present them specifically, but what I can present, and we get a lot of questions from customers about, is the test policy. And this is relevant to tests, so it's in the same area. Let me switch to AppScan. So I assume that many of you are already familiar, but maybe some of you don't know about all the capabilities. Under the configuration, we have the test policy. The test policy enable you to define which tests exactly will be sent during the scan. So we have several out-of-the-box policies like the vital few or web services, application only, and things like that. By default, there is one called default. Here in this screen, you can see a huge amount of details. You see all the issues and all the variants that we send, and you can see details about them, the advisory and fixed recommendation. And you can also create your own type of test policy. So for example, let's say that you want to test only high priority application issues that are high priority. So you can select all the application issues, then go to the severity, keep only those that are high. And maybe I also don't want to send invasive tests, so I will remove the invasive tests. And now I created my own policy. I can keep it for later by exporting it to, let's say, my demo policy. And then it's being saved. I can use it later, and I can also share it with other people to use. And I can also upload it to AppScan Enterprise to be used there. So this is very powerful. And another thing that can be very useful is the ability to change the advisory and fixed recommendation. So you see here what we have out of the box, but you have this edit capability. And if you click it, you get a simple XML that can be edited. And once you edit it, you will see there, you will have it kept. For example, I'm adding demo here, and you see that I changed. So every organization can update the content here according to what is to the recommendation and what's used and relevant in this organization.
Yeah, and we also have on the right side of the screen the recent policy that you were using and all sorts of predefined policies, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I think that's very useful, and if you haven't used it up so far, try it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aitan.
Thanks, Billy. And basically, I mean, go and check it out. We, again, AppScan, as I mentioned in the motto, right? It's security testing, but it's also DevOps and fast and agile. So in our idea, in our head, it's basically you're configuring the scan. You can scan it as the power tool it is, but you can also make it available for people to run as part of their DevOps and make that configuration and that test policy available. So leverage that capabilities. Billy, I think you can stop sharing and then we can see you back, and I'll bring us back to the last person, last but not least, Julie. You're last today because you don't have a point release, but you have continuous delivery. Every week or two we see something new, and just this past weekend we had something. Julie.
Yes, indeed. We're kept pretty busy with doing our announcements and our recent updates, which you can always find off of the cloud homepage, as well as subscribing to AppScan News so that you can get those in your inbox.
Good idea. I will put the link also for AppScan News for subscription at the description at the end of this session.
Sure, sounds great. Let me share my screen. Everybody will see our in-home studio first.
By the way, if anyone has questions during the session to myself or Florin or Billy or Julie, just feel free to put them in the comments and we will respond.
Okay, so as I said in the very beginning of the call, we had some focus on making some things easier. But the key thing is, I'm very fortunate because a lot of the work that comes from the other two product teams, I get to inherit. So everything that Billy talked about related to more compact result sets and more effective crawling and exploring, ASOC inherits that. And Florin, you know, a lot of the language improvements that he mentioned, we get all those too. So, you know, I'm not going to go into detail there, but the key thing is on our platform, ASOC gets either very soon after or very just before the improvements that the teams are working on. IaaS. So I did a demo back at the release of 10.0 of how simple it was to install an IaaS agent. But yet, since then, we've taken the steps to make it simpler. And I'm not going to drill down into this topic because our colleague Ron Klein, who is the product manager for AppScan IaaS, is going to join Aitan on AppScan Tuesdays 2 weeks from today. So mark your calendars for that. We also introduced some webhooks. And the key thing with webhooks is it means we're going to notify you when events happen in ASOC. So it's now possible to register a webhook for getting information about when a scan completes on a given application, and you can get that notification at the application level, at the asset group level, and we also have the ability to register so that when counters or status of an application change. So let's say that you want to know when an application goes from being compliant to non-compliant, or perhaps the number of issues has gone up. So those are documented as part of our API, and it's a framework of webhooks that we will probably expand upon. And then AppScan Go, we've made it more front and center. And the key thing with AppScan Go is it is a very easy way when you're doing static testing to really know what it is that you're going to scan and to easily include or exclude portions of a project. Again, on this one, I'm a good little lead-in because Chris Dewar will be joining Aitan to talk a bit about AppScan Go as well. And I think that's next week.
Yep. Chris with the rest of the application paranoia panel will be on the team on the session, so that will be awesome also.
Super. And just to note, ASOC has had AppScan Go support since maybe last fall, but we weren't making it quite as easy for people to find it and quite as easy to understand what they could do with it. So I encourage people who are interested in static scanning to tune in next week. So Eitan, you asked me to do a demo as well. So just to make sure that we're grabbing the attention of the audience and confusing the audience a little bit, because that's always fun to do, I'm also going to talk about policies, but a different type of policy than what Billy took you through. These are policies within ASOC that can be used to indicate the compliance of your application or the status of your application, and kind of filters on the issues that your testing has returned. So I'm here in kind of the ability of associating a policy with a given application. And you'll see if you look at our policies, we have all sorts of out-of-the-box ones that you could use if they applied to you, if you're not really sure what to begin testing on for security. You know, certainly starting with the OS Top 10 policy is a place you can start. But one of the nice things about ASOC is it does allow you to create custom policies. So that's what I'm going to take you through really quickly. And by creating a custom policy, I can insert a sample here, right? So that I can start from an easy point. And let's say I'm going to call this new high vulnerabilities. And I'm going to change that date to be 2020-06 for 1, and I'm going to just look for high. And as simple as that, I've created a very simple custom policy. You can see also in my list, I had some ones that were just on particular issues. If you want to get your developers targeted on particular vulnerability. And these can be used as filters when you're using things like the AppScan gateway as well. So let me now go to my Arturo Bank application. I'll select that new high policy, click on Arturo Bank, and I can say associate. So now you see I've got a policy there that says any new high ones. If I quickly jump over to my applications, you can see here that right off the bat on my high-level screen, it shows that that application's not compliant with the policies. And so it's showing that new high. And that's because I ran a scan earlier today, no less, that identified some high issues. I can also go in and at any given time, if I have policies assigned, I can turn them on or off of the view of my issues so I can see what is causing the non-compliance. In my view of issues, I have, you know, just this non-compliant, which is only going to show me the new high ones. But if I put that off, I'm going to see all my issues. So you can really use these to work through your issues. One other thing I wanted to quickly show, because I think it's very useful, is what's called a baseline policy. So what I can do here is I define a date parameter. So let's say June 30th, we'll take today, and a time parameter, and we'll just take the current time. And if I associate that policy with Arturo Bank, and I'm for the base of it, I'm going to go in and do my high new and just deassociate it for now. I've set a baseline policy on Arturo Bank, and that's indicating where I am today, and I can presume that I have met some kind of criteria. I've said, okay, I'm going to set a baseline here, and as long as I'm still meeting my baseline, I'm going to be in compliance. So this would, when I get any new issues, I would be out of compliance again. So there's a few things you can do with policies, and some people really have not necessarily have an understanding for what those policies are. But we wanted to share that today. It's not new, it's been there, but it seemed like an interesting few minutes of information for people who are using ASOC and may not use policies.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think it's very important, again, it all ties to the same story that we are talking about, where we are here for the security, but we can't bombard the developers with tons and tons of vulnerabilities. At the end, if someone just onboards an application security program, and to be honest, if they move from one vendor to another, there is a good chance that they will see a lot of vulnerabilities that were not detected with prior technology or just prior version. And if you try to do that with your developers, most likely that you will fail, because now they can't just drop everything and handle 300 new vulnerabilities. So you want to define the policies. And who can define the policy? Whoever, right? It can be the security team. In some organization, other organization, it'd be the business owner, the dev manager. It's all up to the organization how to do those smart filters. Let me jump to, because this is what we are saying. This is what we want AppScan to be, and we think we are there already. We are working more to make it more transparent for people to use. AppScan is the best solution for developers that care about security. Yes, we are not trying to just play nice with developers. Our developers will get security value. If you run our tools, we will find vulnerabilities if you have them. But we will do it in a way that is easy for you to consume as a developer, with the right information and in the right context. At the same time, it's a security product. We are targeting those that care about security, but they need to care about DevOps, because our scans are going to go faster. Our scans are going to be easier to consume, and we are targeting those security people that understand that their role in life changed also. They are now not policing the engineers. They are working with them. They are guiding them. They are auditing and governing, but they are guiding them. They need to care about the DevOps. They need to care about the developers, and we will give them all the tools and integrations and knowledge that they want, whether that be in AppScan Tuesdays sessions, or talk to us. Right? Reach out to any of us. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can contact us through your favorite sales rep. We are here for you. We hope that you find value in 10.0.1. And again, I'm sorry for the black hole at the beginning with the 15 minutes delay. That was me just checking how people staying online and wasting your time. So appreciate it very much. Appreciate you all for joining, Julie, Florin, and Billy. I'm sure that I will have you on the show again. And next week, as I mentioned, Chris Dewar, Rob Cuddy, and Colin Bell, the famous Colin Bell, will be on the show. It's the entire application paranoia panel. If you have not heard about them, go and check them out. They have an awesome podcast. We are celebrating my 10th session, probably too early, but still, with them. And they will show you also what they can do, not just talk. They can actually do. They're all experts in their fields. So